and welcome along to F1 Pit Stop. We are back. There's a new season ahead, and we're here to preview it. Matty,
come on!
Back. A long time I haven't seen you, brother.
Well, I've been in hibernation like Lewis Hamilton. You see, that was it. Once that fucking ended happened, I thought I've got to get underground.
Are you going to change your name like Lewis Hamilton as well?
Maybe.
Well, listen, it's great to have you back.
Come on.
You look like you were still traumatised by the end of last season.
What a crazy... we've got to firstly just appreciate what an amazing year it was last year.
It was an amazing year. It was an amazing year, and it was great to have you guys on the channel,
totally.
Watching along with the races and the previews and that. And we're going to be bigger and better this season, trust me. And let's just, before we get into the new season, last season, I say you're still traumatised. I still got... I don't know, it still doesn't seem right to me how it all ended up, you know. I still can't, maybe I'm being wrong here, I still don't look at Verstappen and think, yeah, you're the champion, you're the...
You know what it is, right?
I still can't look at it and think, it's a bit of default in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a bit like Liverpool's Premier League. It's got an asterisk, you know, hasn't it? Because of the whole COVID shutdown behind closed doors thing. Now, I think the right thing to say within Formula One, the thing you're hearing everybody say, Max Verstappen is a worthy world champion, but he didn't deserve to win that particular race. You know, it's almost like the outcome's fine.
That particular race is what made him be the world champion.
And I think, like, Crofty, for me, he's the commentator on Sky F1, you know, absolutely brilliant commentator. And one of the things he came out to say, and it was a different perspective for me, is he was talking about Michael Massey. And what we know, we all agree, even if you're a Max fan, you agree, the circumstances that happened there were not in the rule book. The whole allowing the 5 cars between Lewis and Max to overtake, and then even then, Robbie, there was 1 lap left. Well, in the rules, the safety car has to then complete a lap after those unlappings happen. So it would have finished, but no, he brought the safety car in. All that happened, and Crofty said, which I thought was great, he's been let down as Michael Massey by the FIA. We've got more races than we've ever had in a calendar, 23 races. That guy is completely on his own, and we've added in the direct comms between the teams and the race director throughout the race. So all season long, between Christian Horner, who's made, I think, these outrageous comments about Toto bullying Michael Massey all year, and I look and go, Horner and Toto were as bad as each other. They were putting him under insane pressure, and every time an incident happened, they were in his ear, they were on his phone, and Crofty was saying, listen, Michael Massey was a victim, really, of a year of too much pressure. That is not a job for one man. There should have been multiple people built in that arena, if you like, of being the FIA officials, being the referees that are able to come in and help take some of that burden and make some decisions. And what we saw in the end is a guy snapping. And the final words that we hear him say on the radio is Toto Wolff furious at the end of the race and saying, Mike, what was that? And he replied, it's motor racing, Toto. You remember that? Yeah. That very sassy exchange of like, yeah, it's called a motor race. And you look and go, what a shame for him that that's going to be kind of a legacy. He's gone now. They've got rid of him. They've made a complete rehash of now how the officials do it. There's going to be 2 race officials, race directors. There's going to be VAR now coming into Formula One.
F1 VAR.
Yeah.
God help it.
Well,
if it's anything like the football one.
I'm probably the only person. I've never been that against. I'm going to lose everybody's following now. I've never been that against VAR, really.
No, you know what? The funny thing is, in football, I'm not against VAR either.
Oh, interesting.
I'm just against the people who run it.
Yeah, okay.
That's always the worrying thing, those people that are behind it.
I think what we were promised with VAR in football is that it's going to take away the unfair decisions. It's going to mean that, oh no, if it was supposed to be a goal, it will be a goal. If it's offside, it will be. What we've actually found is we were promised perfection and it isn't perfect. I just hope with Formula One that it removes the pressure side. That means there was quite a lot of occasions last year where actually it was the Red Bull fans that weren't happy with the fact that Max was penalised for this. Lewis wasn't penalised for that. He wasn't penalised heavy enough. You know, the crash at Silverstone where Lewis got only a 10-second penalty but still came back and won the race. You know, the Red Bull fans were not happy about that situation. There were times later on where Max Verstappen, you know, I seem to recall, you might recall it differently, the second to last race in Jeddah. Max brake testing Lewis. You know, he slowed down. They go into the back of each other. No real penalty for Max Verstappen in there. If VAR is going to come in and properly analyse, like we see our pundits doing after the race, you know, the steering wheel angles and everything like that, and really taking time over a decision, then I'm all for it. And I think it makes for even more close racing, even better action than it did last year.
VAR in F1. All right, well, that's another added element to it. But listen, the season, I mean, all right, we're all over. Let's get over last season.
Yeah, come
Max Verstappen is the champion, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now it is a new season, right? New cars, some new drivers as well.
Yeah.
And a really exciting season ahead. And, you know, you don't know this season which way it's going to go because the cars are different.
Exactly. And biggest difference we've had in nearly 10 years. You know, we've had similar cars since, I think, 2000 and, correct me if I'm wrong, 14 or 13 was the start of the turbo hybrid era. So, yeah, it's a complete reset.
Right. That's what I want you to fill everybody in on.
Come on.
What is the difference? What is different about these cars this year?
Aerodynamically, the cars are very different. Now, I'm a big believer in we're not going to get too deep on this show, on off-circuit. We're not getting into the real geekery of it, but you're going to see some different pieces of trim on the front wing. The rear wing's a complete redesign. You've actually seen now over the tyres, have you noticed, there's now actually a piece of bodywork coming over, a bit like IndyCar. And how they have it there.
Look at like mud flaps.
Yeah, exactly. Now, all of this is designed, and the whole sort of redesigning of the cars, if you like, and the new rules and everything coming in place. Again, what we're being sold as fans and promised is closer racing, more wheel-to-wheel action. And the cars in previous years have been so exceptionally well designed when it comes to downforce and sticking for speed that they kick off a lot of what's called dirty air, turbulent air off the back of the car, which means that it's now really hard to actually run behind a Formula One car and get up close and go for the overtakes. And that's where the criticism in Formula One has been lately. The new cars are designed so that actually they can run right up alongside each other. We can see a lot more overtaking, a lot more wheel-to-wheel racing, and therefore more need for VAR decisions and things like that. We're going to get up close and personal this year.
Yeah, because is it that the design, whereas before, like you said, the dirty air would just be directly in front?
Just pissing off the back of the car last year.
Now it's going to sort of take it over the top of the car.
Exactly,
is that right?
yeah, and it's going to push air along the sides, like it's going to be, it's a complete radical redesign. I think the cars look fantastic, Robbie. I think they're great looking machines. We've got bigger tyres now. We've gone from a 13-inch wheel, which is similar to, I had a Fiat Cinquecento I was running last year. That had bigger tyres than a Formula One wheel anyway. Now we're on an 18-inch wheel. So great big fat tyres.
Why does it need the bigger tyre?
More grip in the corners, I think. It's, again, just all about helping us with more wheel-to-wheel action and getting in there.
Yeah, well, they look nice, the cars this year.
They do. Now, we've got to talk about side pods when we talk about the new
just
cars.
before you get to the side pods, right? You was talking about the aerodynamic design of the cars. Now, I note that some of the drivers have been moaning about the cars have been bouncing.
Yes. Porpoising is what we're hearing.
Right.
That's all over the news.
What is this bouncing effect? What's causing it?
So effectively, because of the new way of the way that the aero's working and the ground works on the car, it's basically meaning we have something in Formula One called a rake, right? And we talked about this a little bit last year for those that were with us. The rake is effectively how the car is at the bottom. You can run a low rake, which is close to the ground, but a high rake, you might decide to just raise the floor at the back of the car up a little bit. So crucially last year, Mercedes were one of the lowest rakes in Formula One. Red Bull were one of the highest rakes in Formula One. It's a different way of applying downforce for the car to stick to the tarmac, to go as quick as possible around the corners, okay? So what's happening with porpoising now is, regardless of the rake height, the way that the side vents work on these Formula One cars is very much about radiators and cooling. It sucks air in through the side of the car and then it pushes that air down. Now, what we're seeing with the different sizes of side vents, no side vent from Mercedes versus a great big, the biggest one from McLaren, is we're seeing the air is coming in, and it's very difficult this without graphics, but if you can imagine, the air is coming into the side and is then going down under the car. What that causes is the car to raise up a little bit. It's almost like a gust of wind under the car. The car then, being designed to glue to the floor, forces itself back down onto the track, causing the car to jump like a porpoise or a dolphin diving out of the ocean. So Mercedes are not the only team struggling with, but the headlines have been Mercedes are porpoising like crazy. Actually, the majority of the cars out there seem to be really struggling. Mercedes are up there as one of the worst. McLaren seem to be doing okay with it from what we understand. Red Bull seem to be doing the best with it.
Yeah, why? Is it just their design?
Yeah, so it's actually aerodynamically how they've designed the bottom of the car. I'm going to stop saying the word aerodynamically, so that's doing everybody's head in already. So McLaren actually came up, so porpoising was last in Formula One in the 80s. It was a big problem, and McLaren spearheaded a new design under the car where effectively they fitted almost like what a front wing does, with all the different pieces of carbon fibre on there. They fitted like a mini front wing underneath the car towards the front that just redirects the air away from the large bulk of the floor, stopping the bouncing, as it were. I'm butchering this, I think, but it's complicated. It really is. So what I have heard from Martin Brundle and the guys on Sky F1 is they've been very quick to come out and say, yeah, listen, Mercedes aren't even bothered about the porpoising right now. They're just purely looking at raw speed, as most of them will. They'll simply redesign a new floor, and we've already heard, actually, the breaking news out of this week is Mercedes have got a new floor that's going to be in place for Bahrain this week. So actually, we should see no porpoising as of race weekend.
Now, out of the testing, who's been on top? Because they've been testing for like 2 weeks this time, because normally they go to Barcelona and they do the testing. This time around, they went to Barcelona and did the testing.
Yeah.
Then they gone to Bahrain and did the testing. Now, what is this? Just some sort of commercial thing, or is it that they actually needed the two?
So interestingly, I think as far as I'm aware, we've always done 2 weeks of testing, but you're quite right. It would usually be that they pitch them in Barcelona and stay there for the 2 weeks. Then we've seen in recent years them going to the Middle East, which is where the season starts now, just to do the testing, I think, in warmer climates. Your problem with testing in Barcelona in February is it's cold, it's wet, it's rainy, so they can't properly test. But it's close to all the teams, so it's really easy to get new parts up there. I did hear from a friend who used to formerly be a mechanic at the Mercedes team that you would not believe, from the factories all around the Oxfordshire area and Barcelona, they have constant van drivers backward and forward, just bringing new parts, right, try this, try that, try this, all the way through testing. So as you say, we just finished last week in Bahrain. We start racing this week in Bahrain.
I heard a little insider story. You said that the Bahrain testing is more to do with, because if you notice, they didn't show the Barcelona testing on TV.
Correct, and
they
that was
only
a
showed
deal.
the Bahrain testing on TV,
right.
And it was that TV deal that they did with Bahrain. Why?
Yeah,
and
great.
That's why
money
talks, and of course, none of a couple of your mates are going to be missing this season. No Haas. Well, there will be Haas.
There will be.
But no Nikita Mazepin and his dad.
Should we have a moment's silence for him? Nah, fuck him, I think, actually. Yeah.
Of course, obviously, with the whole Russian-Ukraine thing, they've been sanctioned.
Yeah, totally.
And they're not part of it.
They're not, and something...
I saw where he was saying he wants his money back.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in Drive to Survive, we saw that evil bastard coming through and threatening to pull his money out, and it was nothing to do with the sanctions. It was to do with, he actually, like a spoilt dad would with his spoilt kid, Nikita was under pressure to say, come on, you're not as fast as Mick, get faster. And he was having a go at him back and saying, fuck you, my car's slower. And so his dad went back in and said, my son's car is slower than Schumacher's car. If you don't give him a quicker car, I'm pulling my money out.
But they drive the same car.
The same car, exactly. No, he said, no, I don't believe you. I think you've deliberately given my son a slower car. There is no way my son is slower than Mick Schumacher. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, he's not going to be in it at all this year.
He isn't. And you know something, people coming out and it's divided people a little bit, about is it politics, is it sport and all that. And all I would say on the matter is, let's remember, Nikita Mazepin was hired for non-sporting reasons, i.e. his dad bought the seat. He's now been fired for non-sporting reasons, i.e. his dad can no longer fund the team. This is a sheer funding decision, and that's all it is. And if you take away Mazepin's money, what does Mazepin bring to the team? Well, he brought 22 spin-outs in 21 races last year. He is, without doubt, in my mind, Robbie, the worst Formula One driver of all time. So I can't understand anybody, there are people out there thinking, well, he should still be in. I think, no. Listen, on to better days now. Kevin Magnussen's back. He's partnering Mick Schumacher. He'll be able to teach Mick a little bit. I'm sure Mick will push him all the way from, for a pace point of view. And Gunther Steiner, the main man behind Drive to Survive, great team principal. I think now it's better days ahead for Haas.
Okay, better days ahead for Haas. and they need it because last season they didn't have any good days.
They've had some awful days.
They've had some awful days. But talking of that, who this season now are we looking at and saying, you know, who's looking good after, you know, because obviously a lot of people are going to be looking at it and saying it's going to be the usual two suspects going head to head. But the testing so far, and I know you can't completely go off of that because, like you said, little changes can be made before that first race.
Totally.
But the testing so far is showing that some other teams are looking good.
Robbie, I really hope, if we learnt one thing in testing that I hope isn't bullshit, because there's a lot of bullshit in testing, if we learnt one thing, it's that Ferrari might be back. And Formula One needs a strong Ferrari like, sorry, football needs a strong Man United. Sorry again.
No, we don't.
But there's something about sexy red Ferrari being at the top of the grid, being on the podium, that I don't care if you're a Lewis fan, you're a Max fan, Red Bull, Mercedes, everybody likes Ferrari. I've never met somebody who goes, nah, fuck Ferrari. There's something about that. And I think, you know, great driver lineup with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz surprised the hell out of me last year. He actually managed to beat his teammate Charles Leclerc over the course of the season in the end. I thought, wow, what a great performance from him. So, yeah, listen, at the moment they look fast. I think they've got the best looking car on the grid.
Car looks
absolutely stunning with the little curves. It looks like it's been carved out by the ocean or something. It's stunning. So, yeah, it looks at the moment like Ferrari are pretty quick. That being said, Red Bull still look great. I mean, they are not going to fall off a cliff from a car performance point of view. I think they're going to be right up there this year. The big question that everybody's asking me at the moment, Robbie, and I'm going to ask you the question, are Mercedes sandbagging? Did they deliberately not do well in this? They've got precedent for deliberately not showing up, not showing the full hand.
I think that's the case because even last year they did this, didn't they? They didn't look that great. They weren't all that impressive during testing.
Totally.
Then all of a sudden they come roaring out.
I mean, last year there could be an argument to say that Mercedes, you know, I said all the way through the year, Red Bull have the strongest car. And I think Mercedes did amazingly well to end up winning the Constructors and being in it on the final day. That to me was down to Lewis. But like 2019, for example, was the big year where Mercedes had, everyone was like, Mercedes are dead. This is the worst car we have ever seen. Well, they came through and won the first X amount of races and it was bullshit. I've got a stat for you though that you might not have heard.
Right.
In the entirety of Bahrain testing, as we understand it, Mercedes, supposedly who was struggling for pace, didn't even use 8th gear, the top gear. They didn't get out of 7th.
Right.
Now, if that's the case, if that is true, and that's what we're being reported at the moment, down some of the big straights, they've deliberately told Russell and Hamilton this year, no, keep it in 7th. Don't worry about showing anyone your raw pace.
I believe that. And then even when I heard Lewis Hamilton coming out and saying, I'm not sure about this car, I was like, shut up, man. I don't believe you, sorry. Right, we know that car is going to turn up.
Well, he went as far as to say, we won't be competing for race wins this year. He didn't say the championship. He said race wins. And you're like, Mercedes win the majority of the races every year for the last 8 years. There's no way you're saying now you're going to be struggling for second and third.
No chance whatsoever. Mercedes will be there. Red Bull, like you said. What? McLaren?
McLaren, yeah, so they didn't have as strong a testing. For me, the key to McLaren, providing the car works out for them as we think it's going to do, the porpoising fixes itself and all of that, it's going to come down to, can Daniel Ricciardo fucking show up this year? You know, amazing win for him
He had
last year.
Race, but he won that race, but I think that covered over the cracks, didn't it?
It really did, yeah. And the truth of it is it probably salvaged his whole, not just year at McLaren, but his 2 years with Renault before that. You know, since leaving Red Bull, it's been a case of, the rumour out there is that Daniel Ricciardo's a phenomenal talent and we all love his personality. My worry for him is if he can't start showing it in the first half of this year, I'd start looking, if I was Zach Brown and the top guys at McLaren, and going, do we need to start looking at somebody else to partner Lando Norris? Maybe Danny Rick is washed up and done. And that's something I don't like it coming out of my mouth. I'm a big fan of Daniel Ricciardo. I think he's the best personality on the grid by a country mile. But for me, Robbie, he's got to turn up this year.
What other teams are standing out for you? What other teams are you saying to yourself?
I am genuinely intrigued for Haas. I think Kevin Magnussen coming in is a great thing. I think it's all going to be about what we heard, and I loved hearing this actually. It was there's an Instagram account called F1 Humour who are brilliant out there, and they actually put a tweet out when the K-Mag thing happened to say, isn't it interesting? Kevin Magnussen drove for Haas for 3 years. They then had a funding issue, so they get rid of Kevin Magnussen, they bring in Mazepin. With the $50 million that came in from Mazepin's money, they didn't spend any of it on last year's car. What they said is, don't worry, we're going to put all this money into development for the 2022 car, which a lot of teams did, right? They then fire Mazepin at the end of the year. He never got to drive the car, and then they rehire Kevin Magnussen now that they've got the funding. There's almost like a secret agent thing going on in there. I think if they've truly been able to do some great things with that car, I think K-Mag and Schumacher, you know, scoring a couple of points this year would be a massive improvement on the previous 2 years, and it would take them off the bottom, you would think. So I'm excited for them. But the team that I'm most concerned about is Alpine, our little French team. Big shake-up there. Aston Martin's former team principal, Otmar Saf, has now moved over to Alpine, and we've seen them have a horrendous pre-season. They notified us that they've really struggled developing the car this year. That was followed up by a lot of mechanical breakdowns, the brakes bursting on fire, like a lot of problems for them in the pre-season. They've had a really good year last year with Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon. They did get that race win. They got a few podiums. They finished 5th or 6th in the championship in the end. Like, they did really well. I think they're going to be down sort of in the bottom, certainly bottom 4, possibly even bottom 3 this year. So I'm worried for them.
Who's the car to watch then? You know, apart from the obvious.
Yeah, I think in terms of sheer excitement this year, Ferrari are going to be a team to watch. Great driver lineup, almost nothing to lose, really. You know, as in Red Bull and Mercedes, they've got a lot of reputation to lose there. Ferrari, it's a case of can you disrupt one or both of them or not. They're going to be very exciting. But for me, an obvious talking point here, I think George Russell is going to hit the ground running in that Mercedes this year. We're talking about a guy who was thrown the keys to it for one race back in 2020, if you remember. And if it wasn't for the 2 fuck-ups from his mechanics and his teams, probably would have gone on and won that race. Having never driven the car before, you look and go, that's a special lad right there. I think we're going to see him on the podium.
Do you better than Bottas?
Oh, miles better than Bottas, yeah. I think Bottas has been a warrior for Mercedes. He's been your classic, probably, if you open the dictionary and look up number 2 driver, it will be Valtteri Bottas, the greatest number 2 driver of all time, but not a championship contender in a championship winning car.
Is he the greatest number 2 driver of all time? Because there's an argument to say, had he have been better last season, Hamilton would have won.
Yeah.
You know, he never really helped out Hamilton at all.
The question,
now, is this something that might help Hamilton this season? The fact that George Russell, number 1's going to be pushing him, but number 2, you know, in some of those races where you want your sort of second driver to defend you know.
Absolutely, and how many times did we see Bottas fuck that last year, you know? Yeah, no, I definitely get what you're saying. I think for me it comes down to, like, if what you want out of your number 2 driver is to make your team so strong points-wise that you're going to win the Constructors every year, then Bottas has achieved that every single year that he's been there. Now, if his job is also to help his teammate win the Drivers' Championship, that's the part of it where you could argue it's not really his problem, not his responsibility. But yeah, last year in particular, he just wasn't there. He was nowhere to be seen. There was a lot of poor starts from him, poor performances, poor qualies. Like, just overall, I was disappointed as a Hamilton fan. You remember how many times we were there going, Max is starting behind Bottas, so long as Bottas holds him up, and then straight away, Verstappen
on the
came
first
round.
lap, he'd be gone.
So I don't think we're going to have that same thing with Russell. My wondering, again, it is a question put to you, as I've asked some of our fans on Instagram. Do you think, as part of the negotiations, that Lewis Hamilton and Toto will have almost built KPIs for Russell to say, your job is to help Lewis win the championship this year?
Yes.
I do as well. I think he is there knowing full well, it ain't my time this year
it's not
to try and
your,
win a
it's not
championship.
your, you know, you're in, do well, but don't look the main guy look too bad. That's what I get the impression it might be.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that it's almost a passing of the baton is, no, help Lewis in these final year or 2 on his contract, and then guess what? You're going to be the world champion. We'll make you the main man, you know?
Yeah, but I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to, I'm a guy that I've met.
Me too.
And he was a really nice guy when I met him. And it must be amazing for him to get this drive.
I can't believe you met him. That's so cool.
Yeah, I met him when I went to the F1 at Monza. And I met him with the Williams team. He obviously driving for Williams then.
Yeah, great.
Really nice guy, really nice guy.
I actually, I bumped into him in the off-season. I was at a place near us in the Cotswolds. I came out, it's like a Japanese restaurant. I came out with my wife and some friends. And I opened the door and I was like, oh, there you go, mate. All right, mate. Yeah. Goes past. I went, oh my fucking God. I stop in my tracks, right? And I'm like, it's George fucking Russell and his missus going into this restaurant. So we walk out, I'm kind of freaking out, and then I felt bad, like I pussied out, I didn't say anything, like I definitely should have.
No, you should have, because he's a very receptive guy.
And really. I think he would have been. Anyway, I walked round to reception, still freaking out, and I had to tell the girl on reception, I was like, oh my God, fucking George Russell. And she went, who's that? And I went, he's Lewis Hamilton's teammate in Formula One this year. And she went, oh yeah, Lewis is here as well. He's been here 3 days. Oh my God! Like it was a whole breakdown for me moment. And then I thought at that point, wow, fucking hell, what am I going to do here?
Well, you eat at some expensive restaurants, don't you?
So
when we get our invite, you know what I mean? Eating at the restaurants with Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Yeah, it's all right for some, isn't it?
Madness it was, absolute madness.
Now, talking of Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen.
Come on.
Right? Come on. It's on again, isn't it?
It's on again. Donkey Kong.
Lewis Hamilton wants revenge.
And that eighth title.
Yeah, Verstappen, I'm sure, he'll know that there's some people saying, yeah, do you really? If you went for that last race, a bit dodgy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he'll want to win it fair and square.
Yeah, absolutely.
This season's going to be amazing. Those two still don't look to me like they don't like each other.
Oh, I don't think there's
Probably, I think it's got more intense since last season.
100%.
They're both going to be determined to win this season.
Yeah.
It's going to be harder because, like you said, there's more competition from more cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're hoping there's going to be, right? What do we have in store from those two? Honestly. Plus, as well, you can throw into the mix, Toto Wolff, and also Christian Horner.
Yeah, I mean, that was almost as intense a battle as Lewis and Max all the way through, maybe even more so.
Yeah.
And particularly Toto, we saw him really lose his cool towards the end of the season.
He took headphones down.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we've never, and you remember that moment where he turned to the camera and was like, giving it that in the background, Like, we've not seen that kind of loss of composure from Toto. Which just shows you just how well, really, Christian Horner and Max Verstappen played that together. We saw a clip in Drive Survive where Horner out and out says to Max before one of the races, don't worry, I'll do my bit. As if to say, I'll be pushing all the right buttons and doing that. I've got a funny feeling about this year. It'll go one of two ways. I definitely think Max and Lewis is going to be a hot and intense rivalry. I'm sure we'll see wheel-to-wheel action and barging and collisions and all of that. I'm concerned mentally for a couple of reasons for Max Verstappen this year. Maybe it's wishful thinking, Robbie, I don't know. But here's my two things. He's given up his number 33 and has decided to take the number 1 this year as world champion, which is his right to do it. He is the first champ to do that since Vettel did it in the early 2000s, 10 years. Lewis Hamilton did not ever take it. He said, I'm number 44, I'm not taking number 1. And Nico Rosberg obviously retired after he became champ, so didn't get the opportunity. So I look and go, okay, you've now put on your car and on your helmet every week as a reminder, I'm the champion, I'm the champion. That's a target on your head. That's extra pressure that maybe you don't need as a Formula One driver. Second part of it, did you see in the news about his new contract? Max Verstappen has been handed a new contract at Red Bull.
Oh yeah, sorry, I did see it, yeah.
Big, 5 years, $50 million a year. That's $10 million more than Lewis Hamilton's on. It makes him not only the highest paid Formula One driver on the grid, he's the highest paid Formula One driver of all time, and he's now one of the highest paid athletes in the world. I think the combination of all of this, he's really put himself up between him, his team, his management, all of that. He's on this great big pedestal coming in. He won it on the last day of the season, level on points going in on the last lap. It was tiny difference, and all of a sudden now he's going to line up on the grid, and if he doesn't win this weekend, the champion's losing. If he doesn't win the second weekend, the champion's fucked. He's bottled it. So I think really and crucially,
it's a lot different when you're the hunted.
It really is.
When you're the hunter,
and
sometimes.
Lewis loves to be the hunter. He loves to do that. And you see Lewis's approach is very much like, do you want the number 1, Lewis? You are the number 1. Nah. 7 times he said no. I'm keeping 44. Oh, you sure you don't want it this time, Lewis? No. I'm 44. There's almost a humility to that and a presence of mind to say it's a new year. I'm not a champion. It's the new year. Let's fight again. I just hope that Max, being as young as he is, isn't falling into some of those traps that puts him under pressure early on.
You think it might go to his head, is what you're saying?
I'm thinking, wouldn't it be hilarious, depending on your perspective, for the man with the number one car to be fourth in the championship?
Oh. And
if Ferrari are going to be strong, if George Russell, and so I know we'll probably get into predictions, but if Lewis and Russell are going to be right up there, if Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are going to be in the mix, you know, that doesn't lock in Max as a guaranteed first, second, even third.
I do think, though, with Max Verstappen, he doesn't look like the type of guy that it will go to his head. He's a driver. He's a guy. He's a hungry.
No doubt.
And I do think that he's going to have it in him, thinking to himself, at the back of his mind, he's going to be, I'm the champion, but.
Yeah, and that would be helpful.
And I still feel that there's a lot of people, including myself, who walk around and say, you're the champion, but.
Yeah.
But if he wins this year, he'd be like, what?
Yeah, and a two-time champion. Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think he's going to be just as hungry this year as he was last year.
Oh, for me, definitely not about hunger. I think he is going to be, in his mind, he's coming in and he's going for it. My question is, has he got the mental strength that when it starts to go against him, he doesn't start to capitulate early on in this season? And last year was a big test for both drivers mentally of how they handled it. To me, watching the two and the pressure that Max and the guys were up, you know, in the final races, I think we started to see Max losing it. If we talk about Jeddah again, which was the second to last race last year, that was that really good qualifying lap where Max then crashed right at the end, if you remember, didn't get pole position in the end. There was something about that saying, is this him cracking? And then in the race, brake testing, pushing Hamilton off to the side. And that was where even commentary started to say, yes, Max is an aggressive driver, but generally fair. And in that race, it was, hang on a minute, that was perhaps a little unfair. So I don't know, when I think about Max Verstappen, I don't see him as having that same mental strength that a Lewis Hamilton has.
All right.
And that's going to be the key this year.
We're going to find out this year. We're going to find out.
We are.
First race coming up, Bahrain on Sunday, 3 o'clock. We are doing a watch along to it here on DR Sports. Make sure you check it out. You're also going to be able to catch up with Matty's channel on a regular basis every week off circuit.
Come on.
If you haven't yet subscribe to that channel right now. I'll be featuring on the channel on a regular basis as well. The race on Sunday, first of all, I've got a couple more questions for you.
Come on.
I know it's very difficult to predict because, testing, like you said, these guys, they put lots of tricks in testing and stuff. You don't really know what's what. But who are you going for?
I'd love to see 3 teams on the podium. I think what a way to start the season. To have a Red Bull, a Merc and a Ferrari up there would be amazing. It's really early to tell. Cheeky plug, but this Saturday's qualifying is going to be the most important Saturday of the season because it's the first time that we'll see, oh, holy shit, you can't pretend anymore. That car's quick, that car's not quick. So we'll be doing a watch along for that on-off circuit. Come and join us if you're really into it and see it unfold there. But you're going to make me... Yeah, it's in there, come on. You're going to make me nail my colours to the mast here. So I'm going to go ahead and say... I'm going to say a Max Verstappen win because he won there last year. Red Bull looked good. Lewis second, Charles Leclerc third.
Ooh,
that's what I'm going for there. What about you? What are you thinking?
I'm going to go... Yeah, I think I'm going to
it's really like this now, isn't it? Like, we've no way of knowing,
no way of knowing. I think Verstappen will win as well. Let me go Leclerc second, Lewis third.
Ooh, interesting. And neither of us have put George Russell up there.
Yeah,
it's going to depend on the car. If that Merc's hot, it could be a Mercedes 1-2.
He can't win the first race ahead of Lewis.
That's not in the script.
Might not drive again for the rest of the season. Right, overall, and again, I know it's a difficult question to ask because maybe I'll ask it after a few weeks.
Yeah, no, I've got an answer for this.
Overall,
yes.
Who's winning it this year?
I'll give you the
construction.
top 4.
And your top 4.
So I'm going to give you top 4 drivers.
A bit like football, isn't it? Top 4.
No, we're going for it here. In 4th place, I'm going with Max Verstappen. I do think this year, 4th, all the way down there in 4th, yeah. This is based on, I think...
I thought you said you hadn't had a drink since January.
I haven't as well. Can you believe that? I'm better with it in me, I think. It's fuel.
Fourth?
I'm going Max all the way down in 4th place. Yeah.
Why?
I think mentally there's going to be a capitulation there this year. I think he's put himself on too much. I think he's put himself at the top of the hill ready to just fall off. I think the only way is down from where he is right now. I think it's written in the fucking stars that Lewis Hamilton is going to win.
Are you being a bit
8th
bitter with this?
No, I mean not.
Because
it's a fair call as well.
Coon got into your head after the end of the last season.
No, and I didn't really, my heart of hearts, I didn't think Max would win the championship last year, so I'm not the one to listen to. I thought he'd push him all the way, and I thought the way that Lewis was so far behind, Brazil happened, and then Lewis won the race, like, he just kept winning.
Well,
I thought he's going to do it.
You would have been right had it not have been...
Yeah.
Sort of altered on that last race.
I would have been, so do listen to me actually. So Max will come 4th this year.
Jeez,
I think the thing that's going to split the Red Bulls is I just love this idea that Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari is going to come through and split Mercedes and Red Bull this year. So I'm going Charles Leclerc in 3rd place. I'm going George Russell to lock in 2nd place and have an amazing first year, with a few race wins, by the way, and then Lewis Hamilton to win his 8th title this year.
Jeez, 4th place.
All the way down in 4th.
Do you agree with Matt?
It's controversial, I know.
Yeah, it's very controversial. Love to hear from you guys.
Come on, what you got? Give us a top 4 from you then.
Top 4? Jeez. Arsenal? No, I'm only joking. Top 4.
Do you see Lewis winning his 8th title this year, or will he save
I think
it for
he
his
can
last
do.
year?
I think he can do. I think I've got Lewis winning it.
Come on.
Verstappen 2nd.
Yeah.
3rd, I've got...
I mean, there's Perez, I know, at Red Bull, good
Lewis,
driver.
Russell.
Yeah.
I think 4th, I'll go Perez.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Or even it might be 3rd Perez, 4th Russell.
Great.
You know what I mean?
Depending on that car.
I still think it's going to be the same 2 cars.
But
obviously, I would love to see someone else up there.
Totally.
I really would.
I think
like
we
you
can
said,
guarantee,
I'd love to see the Ferraris back.
And we're going to see new podiums. I think last year, every single race last year was won by either Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton, with the exception of 1 Bottas, 1 Ricciardo, 1 Perez and 1 Ocon. This year, if we can start to see 2 or 3 Ferrari wins, we could see a couple of surprise wins, a McLaren win, and all of that. Wouldn't it be great?
It'd be great to see. Different podiums, different teams.
Absolutely.
You know, but I still think, I'm going to edge for Lewis, but I think Max will be pushing him all the way. I think that war's going to be back on again between those two. I really do think it.
And I mean, let's just remind ourselves from last year, Max Verstappen, every race that he finished last year, he finished 1st or 2nd.
Yeah, it was an amazing.
It was an unbelievable display.
Constructions.
Yeah, the Constructors' Champion. I think, it's going to take a lot for Mercedes to have that taken out of their hands. They've had it 8 years in a row now on the bounce. I think... we talk about the difference between the cars. We're not going to know till Saturday, but if we talk about the difference in driver lineups, Mercedes now, in my opinion, have the strongest driver lineup on the grid, bar none. Like, there is no better lineup than the best there's ever been, and probably the best of the up-and-comers. So I think Mercedes are going to be very... I know that's a boring answer, but I think it's Mercedes.
Mercedes 2nd?
Second, it's going to be Red Bull or Ferrari, depending on how the second drivers do. Go on, for a bit of interest then. I've put Max all the way in 4th and Leclerc in 3rd. I'll go Ferrari 2nd in the championship with Red Bull 3rd. And that's because, again, I think if the car's there, Charles Leclerc and Sainz are going to be stronger than Max and Perez. I can't see Perez being up there with Max.
Well, controversial.
It is.
Controversial. I think Verstappen's going to be right up there, but... Matt, he's going for 4th.
Are you going then Red Bull to win the Constructors, or are you thinking?
No, I think Mercedes win the Constructors,
with
Red Bull and then Ferrari.
Yeah, fair. McLaren in 4th.
And then McLaren in 4th.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an interesting season.
Really
we are going to be here. We're going to be featuring some of the big races here on DR Sports. Me and Matty will be doing a watch along to them. If we don't have a watch along of that big race, it will be on off circuit.
Yep.
Of course. Join Matty on Saturday for, it's going to be huge, like you said.
Massive qualifying.
It's going to be huge because nobody really knows what these cars can do. It's been testing, but this now, there's a lot on it.
Totally.
So join him for qualifying on Saturday. Matty's going to be all over that. Then on Sunday, join us here on DR Sports. We're going to be doing a watch along to the first race. Bahrain will be kicking off around about 2:30, and then the race, lights out, is going to be at 3 o'clock. Huge race.
Massive.
Can't wait for it. And Matty, great to have you back on.
No, listen, Robbie, what I have to say on behalf of all these guys is thank you for bringing F1 to your channel and doing that and putting it on for us all. I think we had a great time at the end of last year. What a year this is going to be, man.
And we've got some great bits of content in store for you guys around F1. So make sure you keep it locked here, as I always say, on DR Sports and also on Off Circuit to find out all about that. And check out Off Circuit. The link is in the description. But I cannot wait until Sunday, the big opening race, Bahrain.
Come on.
F1, we are a go on that day, and I'll tell you, I can't wait. It's going to be brilliant. Matty, thanks once again.
Yes, come on.
Don't forget to subscribe here to DR Sports and to Off Circuit, and we look forward to the first race.